Look, I was down on my back. They never thought I would last. I didn't run out of gas. I'm giving all that I can. They didn't know I'm the one. Stand my ground when they thought I would run. Beat me down when they thought I was done. Beating death like the sound of my drum. Feel like I can go do what I want. Hey, liberated. Liberated, man, I come from the worst generation. Overcame all the worst type of situations.
Welcome back to Gear 5 Productions. I'm Kane, Captain of the Day's Pirates. Real glad to be rejoining y'all, getting back into the swing of things. This OP11 video should have come out just a little bit faster, but that's all right. We're here today, and we're going to be talking about the new set OP11. I want to give a real quick channel update and talk about how some things are going to be structured and kind of how this video is going to be structured. So some of you may have seen my post or have heard that I moved states. So I moved out of Illinois. I'm now in Lexington, North Carolina for the short term. So we'll kind of see where we go in the long run with my wife going to PA school. We'll be moving to wherever she goes for the time being. Well, for at least the next 3 years and, figuring things out from there. But for now, we moved in with some family and kind of got our own little space down here and everything's set up now. So, going to be right back into it. I'm still going to be doing online events like crazy. In the short term, I probably won't be doing any immediate travel for regionals. But by the next season of, regionals, I could be moved or I could know where I'm going. Florida is one of the potential destinations, so I would love to be able to plug into those Orlando regionals as soon as possible. But yeah. So from here, obviously, you guys have known, you've come with me this far. RP Luffy is the deck. I love a red purple Luffy above all else. It's still my number one deck. It's still my pride. I could only play RP Luffy and be pretty satisfied, honestly, still. Like, even with some of the other toys that are out there, like, I just love that deck so much. But I am looking to integrate some more variety, which you may have seen me, dabble into some other purple things. And it's kind of funny that in this game, I'm very color locked personally. I just love purple and the way it functions in this game. But when I played Magic, I played literally every single color and built everything that I possibly could. So it's kind of funny. I'm so narrow in this game. Probably a little bit more of the competitive angle and the way I like to think through the game, but that's neither here nor there. What I'm going to say is I'm going to pull up a tier list here, but it's not a tier list. This is Captain Kaine's kind of radar going into OP11. So I have these kind of ranked, but again, these aren't just like S tier verse, that just before I'm gonna get flamed in the like people aren't gonna pay attention, gonna think this is some sort of tier list. Chill. Uh, AMA is Ask Me Anything. I feel very strong on RP Luffy. I've played nearly every build of it that I've seen. I've at least given a handful of games, if not more, to it. I've played over 1,000 games between paper and ranked sim and yada yada. Like that's my deck. It's my pride and joy. Any question you have about it, I can give you a pretty reasonable answer. These other three decks I've started to play. I've played, probably 100 games on most of them, or I guess Purple, Black, and Robin a little bit less. I've probably already played like a lot of games on Blue Purple. I really like this deck too. But overall, these are kind of the next couple decks that are the most intriguing to me, and I do want to make work at a high level. So I do have a pretty big focus over this next set to play a little bit more of other decks, not necessarily 100% RP Luffy, and also kind of promote these decks to where I can really be the level of resource that I want to be if people are going to be taking these decks to bigger events and trying to really win with them. Um, Maybe they're not that. I mean, UP Luffy is S tier, very close to it right now. But like these two, we don't know really where they lie, and I don't know if there's really enough people repping them for us to really know where they could lie. Right? RP Luffy had like no tops until OP09, and then a few good pilots lock onto it, and it's topped consistently ever since. Saichu, Krolzer, some of the guys in my Discord. I haven't had my run yet, but I know it's coming. So like I think some of these decks do have some very, very genuine potential, and they're the most compelling to me personally. So these are kind of be the next three that I really want to get in depth and like really want to be able to speak on matchups and put out matchup guides. And like I don't like putting out half baked, content as a fact, if that makes sense. I want to really put some thought and effort into refining things like that. So these three decks are going to be kind of at that level. And then Green Purple Luffy, honestly, I do think it's cool. I think the way that it sequences and plays is very interesting. How about this light behind me? I'll have to mess around with that in the future. Give videos. Um, I do find this deck very compelling, but like it's very one note. Like you have a couple tech slots, but you run 12 searches, you play Sanji and Pudding, you beat people up with Gear 2 Luffy, you win games. Still good. It's very fun, but it's not as creatively intriguing to me. And you're going to see a lot of other people that are going to put a lot of effort into this content, and you'll see a lot of GP Luffy videos around. So I don't think you'll be lacking there. Foxy is this kind of my little pet deck. I've had a paper copy of it around since since it came out. But I think honestly with Sanji and Pudding, I want to play this deck a little bit more, and I think maybe there's something there in a controlling aspect. We're gonna find out together, but all six of these decks, I do have deck lists that I'm gonna go through after I go through all the OP11 cards and everything with that. So I will have deck lists for all six of these that we'll touch on pretty briefly. But then over the next couple months, you guys will see me putting together some more creative and interesting decks for these three. Uh, ST21 Luffy, the red Luffy, a red Gear 5 Luffy. I just, it's kind of a red deck, and I like Gear 5, and I like kind of these Luffys with all the parallels, so I want to play around with it quite a bit. I think there's something there, especially after doing that control variant of RP Luffy. BY Luffy, I like this deck way more before I found out it was just a Gecko machine. So now that Gecko's gone, I want to see where it goes, and also with ST or OP13, very likely feeding into supporting this deck. Kind of want to get ahead of the curve and play around with it a little bit more. And then Zanji is actually, I say Zanji, it's Zoro and Sanji, the green blue ST12. This is actually the very first starter deck that I bought, and I think it's a very interesting deck. And especially with the additional slash support coming in OP12, I think there's going to be a lot of intriguing opportunities with that as well. But right now, I have like a Warlord list of this deck that I want to play around with a little bit more with the OP11 support and see what we can do with that. And honestly, to that point, like these four leaders, I'm going to do a lot of creative things with them, test out a lot of different things, a lot of different builds. For like RP Loop, you've seen me do budget builds, you've seen me do the removal build, like the rush builds, so like things like that. Like I want to do like a very Sanji Soba mask focused purple black and things like that. So these are going to be kind of the decks you're going to see. Obviously, kind of as far as frequency goes, they'll probably will rank pretty close to this. Yet again, not a tier list of what I think is the best deck on the format. It's just what you're going to be seeing from me above all else, and where I'll be able to be the best resource. If you're joining our Discord, if you're not in the Days Pirates Discord, there'll be a link below. Um, I love the community we're growing. It really it makes me want to do more of this. It makes me want to put more effort into this, and it makes me want to branch out more. And like I said, allow that community to continue to grow. We do have, a lot of RP Luffy players that play other things as well. But then we do have quite a few like Blackbeard players, like one of my better friends in the game and my vice captain, Teddy. He's big on Blackbeard. He's playing some purple black too, so he'll have some lists around as well. Probably test some of his stuff along the way. So yeah, don't want to spend all day talking about this. We'll go through some deck lists at the end, but let's jump into based on this. That's my filter point though, is based on this list of decks is how I chose what OP11 cards to go through. There's other people that are going to go through like every card with you or go a lot more in depth. Like I don't need to re-upload like what VV already crushed a few weeks ago, right? Like he has some like there's people that are really going through every single card and giving you that. But I want to go through the set through kind of the lens that I viewed it and kind of highlight some things that I'm pretty excited about to test out and play with. So first of all, for that ST21 Luffy, Nico Robin, 3 cost 4K, 1K counter, Don X2, when attacking, give up to one of your opponent's characters minus 2,000 power until the end of your opponent's next turn. So because of the Don X2, probably hard to utilize outside of like ST21 or like maybe a Dragon deck. But within that framework, I think it has a lot of opportunity as like a control piece. If you put that 2 Don, it's swinging 6K into whatever you just gave -2 in if you want to go into the board. Or you can just nerf something while pushing face and applying more pressure to your opponent for taking an aggressive angle. And I just love Robin, so any Robin card I'm gonna at least think about. Frankie, this 2K is amazing. I put this in RP Luffy already, and I think it's a shoe-in for if you're playing like a mono red Luffy. I don't see how you're not playing 4 of these probably. It is a 4 cost 4K 2K counter. Your turn, once per turn. When your opponent activates an event, all of your characters gain plus 2,000 power during this turn. Probably if you've been playing the game at all recently, you probably immediately thought of Gum Gum Giant, right? But beyond that, like there's so many more events and dynamic counters that they're introducing into the game that this card just gets better and better, and like every color nearly now, or by OP12 really has a counter event that's kind of valid. You know, we got the Divine Departures, the Gear 2s, like some of the stuff that's coming. Like there's a lot there. So I'm already playing 3 in my current RP Luffy list. But this is, I think, just a good red 2K counter, especially with how many people are relying on that Straw Hat package in red, right? So now we have Honesty Impact. Of course, I did grab the alt arts for y'all as I was going through here. So Honesty Impact is a 6 cost event. Main, give up to one of your opponent's characters minus 4,000 power during this turn, then KO up to one of your opponent's characters with 6,000 power or less. And it also has a trigger KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a 6,000 power or less. So a little bit pricey for an event, right? 6 isn't the cheapest, but the answer is a 10K. Answer is 9 costs. The answer, like it's a huge. And if you have any other reduction, right, it's even bigger. But it's a very nice, just one turn, just get rid of that, play a chump blocker or swing in, and like it can remove everything. Most top end that people are playing, or there are some 12Ks out there, but most are under 10. And then again, if you have any other reduction, you're pushing through further. I have one in RP Luffy right now, but I think this is just a solid card. Even if maybe it's not the best RP Luffy card, maybe it's more of an ST21 card, or maybe neither play it in the long run. But it's a good effect, and it's I think pretty helpful. And that trigger could just win you a game too, which you don't want to bank on triggers, but if it happens, it happens, right? This one's a little bit more of a stretch. I had originally pulled it out kind of for like a weird RP Luffy card, but maybe it could be, ST21 or someone else. This one I think is maybe a little bit of a stretch for my end. Glorp Web. It's a 2 cost counter event. I didn't say the type on the last one was Navy and Sword. This one's also Navy and Sword. But as a counter that is up to one of your leader or character cards gain plus 2,000 power during this turn. Then if your opponent has a character with 6,000 power or more, up to one of your leader or characters gain plus 1,000 power during this turn. So it's a, Eustace Kid effect for RP. Luffy makes this a 7K base, or other leaders it makes their 5 into a 6. So I mean, just that effect, it's always been around the RP Luffy kind of framework. So I do think it could be valid, especially in a Rosinante type of deck. I'm wondering if I could build a deck with like 4 Rosinates, couple of these, couple what's the my other favorite one, slow beam swords, and really just mess with people. Maybe that's more of a sugar thing, and maybe that should be like a sugar deck in the long run. Maybe I'll try an RP then go to sugar at some point. Maybe I don't know, but that kind of structure seems pretty fun and kind of a nice way to kind of mess with your opponents, especially at locals. You'll get some response out of people if you hit them with some counter events that they're not expecting. So now we're moving into green. Gum Gum Elephant Gatling. It's a 1 cost green event. Fishman Island Supernova Straw Hat, so very searchable across the colors. It's one of these are one of these compound or modal events, as I like to say. It has a main effect where you can rest an additional Don, so it's 2 total Don for this effect. Rest up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 5 or less. That's that's a Usohachi for 2 Don. It's not actually it is a counter as well. I was gonna say it's not 2K, but it's a counter event as well. So like that's good. That's just good. That's just good effect. Green loves that. And then also counter up to one of your opponents, up to one of your leaders gain plus 3,000 power during this battle. It's like the Divine Departure templating that we were talking about earlier. So very just solid effect. Basically, any green deck can make use of this to some extent if they want to. Maybe they don't need it, but it's an effect they could use. And then also it's like I said, searchable for those Fishman Island decks, the Supernova decks, and the Straw Hat decks. So that gives it a lot of opportunity as well. Now we're moving on into blue already because I don't play a ton of green. Capone Gang Beige is a 2 cost or 1 cost, 2K power, 1K counter. On play, look at the top 4 cards of your deck, reveal up to 1 Fire Tank Pirates or Straw Hat Crew with cost 2 or more and add it to your hand. Rest go on the bottom. So it's your new blue Straw Hat and Fire. It's like a law, right? But it's the Fire Tank instead of the Heart Pirates. Surprised they didn't give us a alt art because they just tend to give searchers alt arts, but I digress. This next Nami is very strong for blue. 5 cost, 6K power. 1K counter, Nami, obviously Straw Hat searchable. She's a blocker. And then on play, if your leader is multicolored, draw 3 cards and place 2 from your hand at the top or bottom of your deck in any order. So I didn't realize that this was multicolor locked until just now. I mean, I'm so focused on multicolor, it's only relevant to me in that capacity. But I guess that's why Blue Nami leader might not be playing this card, and that's probably why they made it multicolored locked, which is funny because it's a Nami. But yeah, I mean, I don't think it's like Queen, but kind of better if you're doing that type of thing. So just good. This Crashless Wedding is a event searcher. It's left Crashless Wedding, 1 cost event. Main, if your leader is multicolored, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, reveal up to 1 Straw Hat type, and other than Let's Crash This Wedding, add to your hand, then place the rest at the bottom. And it does have trigger activate main, so just a very strong effect. Obviously, I do think within the capacity of like RP Luffy or UP Luffy, they're kind of just brushing past this with just the deck space. Um, and because they end up searching every turn in the late game anyways. And I don't know if Blue Nami is playing enough Straw Hats for this to be valid. But maybe it could be Zanji, maybe it could be a UP Luffy 1 or 2 of if you're looking to kind of filter through your deck early on. One thing that does bother about me about that deck is having absolutely no turn 1 plays, which isn't the end of the world because of how controlling and long you can go with it. But if you want one, could be an option. Next up, we have an 8 cost Charlotte. We are moving on to purple now, so these are purple cards. Charlotte Katakuri, 8 cost, 8K blocker. End of your turn, set up to 2 of your Big Mon Pirates type characters with a cost 3 or more is active. Then add up to 1 Don from your Don deck and rest it. Very interesting effect. This is becoming a very strong card in UP Luffy. I've always kind of wanted a chunky blocker to play for RP Luffy, something to play in the. I want something like a little smaller, a little cheaper personally, but a 7 or 8K blocker is something that I've been very interested in for RP Luffy. So I do want to try out it in there, but it's seeing a lot of play in um, basically every purple deck is entertaining it. And with another set of Big Mom Pirates coming around, I'd be taking a look at Charlotte Pudding. If you guys would like to see some Charlotte Pudding gameplay and testing, like having 2 categories, 2 top end big moms, more consistent early game, I I think there's something there, and I think it might be a good option into UP Luffy as well potentially. Maybe I'm just thinking from like RP perspective, like if they hyper ramp it was a little tough for me. Um, but yeah, I think that deck is probably in a very interesting position coming into the set. And on that note, too, not to backtrack too much, because we just left the blue cards. I think people are sleeping on the Vinsmoke package and the support that they got there. I don't know if I'm going to spend a ton of time on that, but the couple I've come across, that deck did get a lot more consistent having backup Reijus, backup whatever the Red Ranger is, Ikiji, and I think that some of them are running the Nanji as well. So, um, yeah, that both of those decks got some very compelling support this set, and if they were on my radar already, I would have probably talked a little bit more about that, but I want to call it out. Next up, we do have Jaguar D Sol is a 6 cost, 6K with no counter, unfortunately, but has a pretty strong on play. On play, if your leader is Nico Robin and you have 7 or more Don cards on your field, draw 2 cards. Why does it have to have the 7 or more Don cards? That sucks. I guess if you ramp the turn you play it, it's fine. But it would be great to ramp just right into it and be able to not have to worry about that 7th Don. But I guess if you swing with her first and ramp, you would be able to still draw. And then you'd be go up to your 9 Don the next turn. So that's probably fine, actually. But it has no counter and it's only 6K, so I think that's why people aren't so high on it. But it does also have a trigger to activate its on play effect, so could be pitched as well. I don't know. I'm gonna play with it again. It's something that I think could be in there. Gear 2, this is really a staple of RP Luffy or UP Luffy, because it's only locked to blue leaders, even though it's a purple card. But I do think there's some other things that we'll be able to use it pretty soon, whether it's the new Sanji or it could be, that Live in Smoke that's been around for a while. But it's a 1 cost, a counter event with that modal mode. So it's a Straw Hat Crew, Gear 2. You may rest 2 additional you may rest 2 of your Don cards, so 3 total. If your leader colors include blue, get a rested Don. Add up to 1 Don card from your Don deck and rest it. So obviously that's just flat 3 cost ramp. RP Luffy would have ate this up if they gave us access to it. I don't know, maybe to keep it out of the hands of GP was why they did the blue and not multicolored. Because like I guess Robin would play it too, probably. I don't know. I was kind of surprised to see the blue specific, but it's good. And then it also has the counter, add up to one of your leaders, get plus 3,000 power for one Dom. So, pretty solid card all around there. And obviously, it's an instant four of if you're playing UP Luffy, you play four of them. Quick shout out for our Blackbeard fans in the Days Pirates. This is an insane new card. Like the ST is insane. Oh, I didn't talk about the STs, but we did already talk about this purple black Luffy ST card. So if you haven't watched my last video, I'll link it at the end of the video and in the description. We do talk about the ST26 reveals and the implications of those. I think for the most part, those are only purple black Luffy cards, aside from maybe a little bit of messing with it. But yeah, that's just want to shout that out. I did go through those starter deck cards when they were first spoiled, so check that out. Um, but obviously, Blackbeard got their ST now in the English, which is amazing for them, not for us, for them. And they also got this one cost 2K power, 2K counter blocker. That's insane, right? One cost, 2K power, 2K counter blocker. But it does have an on play, trash two cards from your hand. But Blackbeard doesn't care about that. It's just you just remove that text for Blackbeard, and it's just insane value. It's a better 2K for them than a lot of their other 2K options. It's better than Vasco Shot. I mean, Vasco Shot's searchable, so there's that, but they can play more of them. And now it's just like they were playing that VV blocker before. So yeah, I know all of my Blackbeard friends are loving this, and I'm not, but good for them. Zeus is a great yellow card. Now we're moving on into yellow. Two cost, 2K power, 2K counter, Zeus. And on play, you may add one card from the top or bottom of your life cards to your hand, KO up to one of your opponent's characters at the cost 5 or less. So this is really a power crept, like I think it was Thunderbolt from like OP03. I mean, it kind of makes sense this much later, but um, it's a Homies Big Mom Pirates card. It's good removal at a good rate. It's also a 2K. Um, so just everything about it, I like it. I think really FT13 Luffy probably loves this, um, just for the tempo and being able to pick up that life at the same time. Some of them were used to play Thunderbolt, so that makes sense. But then obviously some of the other leaders, I don't know if Purple Yellow Robin really make great use of this, but she could. But yeah, I was thinking for ST13 Luffy, this could be a pretty interesting option. Gum Gum Fire Fist Pistol Red Hawk is a one cost yellow event. It also has two effects. The first is main, rest three of your Don cards, and that is, then four total at that point. If you and your opponent have a total of five or more life cards, KO up to one of your opponent's characters, the base cost is five or less. There's great tempo early in the game, especially. I think it's a pretty decent rate to also have that counter of plus 3,000 power to your leader for one down. Especially if you end up in a shell where you're able to search Straw Hats, it could be very compelling. I don't know if Purple Yellow Robin really cares enough to run this, but I just want to shout it out. And obviously, it's got a great alt art, so that's always a nice thing to see too. Last couple here. Actually, the last one new card, and we'll shout out the SPs looking great. This is one of the secrets of the set, actually, the SEC rare. 8 cost, 8K power, 0 counter, rush, Monkey D. Luffy. When attacking, you may trash one card from your hand, return up to one character with a cost 4 or less to the owner's hand, then give up to one rested down to your leader or characters, one of your characters. So this is just really good tempo. When there was more Doflamingo, I know that UP Luffy was leaning on this more, especially in a world where there's a lot of Blackbeards that hate rush and want to play a whole bunch of Burgesses, or now they're new annoying blockers, but especially the Burgesses. Being able to bounce a Burgess that might be threatening 10K next turn while you swing in is phenomenal, and can be extremely good utility, especially if you're seeing a lot of Blackbeard and you're playing UP Luffy because you do use a lot of on plays into the end game. So now this is even just another play that you can make that's very aggressive and really disrupts their game plan at the same time. Then again, this isn't a new card, but for UP Luffy, Sanju is the one to pull up, I think. These SPs just look great. I love the kind of just everything about them. They're pretty amazing. The 2-cost Shirahoshi. A few of the other characters got great cards, got one. But yeah, this Sanji, especially for your UP Luffy's, um, is very, very nice. All right, let's jump over into my couple deck lists. I'm not going to spend a ton of time going through like every single card and every single count, but just kind of a quick overview of what we're doing and why we're doing it and where my current thoughts are on it. So RP Luffy, we have our standard Nami with a whole bunch of searchable Straw Hat 2Ks. I did cut Radical Beam, and I'm now up to 11 true 2Ks. And then I still have my 4 Gum Gum Giants, of course. And then we have our 10 card ramp package at this time: 4 Soros, 4 Bond Clays, 2 God Threads. I'm a little lower on God Thread recently, so I might move away from this, but I have been liking the additional ramp. So we'll see. I know some people have been just running like Zoro, Juros, and more Mole Guns and things like that instead. I'm still running 4 Queens. I think it's just the best blocker we have access to. Opens very dynamic lines in the late game between Queen into Mulgun and Queen into other blockers like this additional Robin or whatever else. It's just a very strong play that gives us a lot of defensive potential. I did slot back in 2 of the 7-cost Sanjis just to kind of fill a gap in my curve and also be a great finishing threat in a lot of scenarios, especially with the rise of Buggy. There's going to be even more 6-cost blockers for us to answer. So being able to just rest down the Mihawk and go face might just be what you need if you're seeing some Buggies around. That matchup can be pretty volatile. My top end package is still running 3 new gates. The 9-cost new gate makes our leader into an 8K, has a good on KO effect for those small blockers. I just love everything this card is doing. 9-cost Luffy. It's the minus a Don draw card. Lets us run 11 Don plays. You can go 7-10, draw a card, have giant open, strong card. I can't imagine fully cutting Gear 5 if it's even just down to 1. I have 2 in right now. I did cut my second Roger for the time being because I'm seeing less Blackbeard overall personally, and also because I want to try out this Honesty Impact, which can offer a lot of tempo and play as well a little bit earlier in the game. So that's why I kind of just split that out there, and that's really the entire deck list. So let's now go to UP Luffy. Because I've only had kind of limited opponents and I haven't had, the West ladder just got updated with all this stuff. Um, I haven't really spent a ton of time. I have played quite a few of these games with this deck, but it's been against limited opponents and limited decks for the most part. So I really just copied this deck list directly from someone that won a big Japan event and then swapped 2 cards. So everything that you see here, the only thing that was not in their deck list, I put in this Nico Robin because they had the Foxy Tony Chopper, and I think it was for the mirror, but I couldn't really figure out why it was in there. So having a searchable little cheap blocker is really good for us, I think, and good to include more Nico Robins. So for this list, we have a solid ramp package of 4 Zoros, 4 Bon Clays, 4 Gear 2s, and 3 Thunder Baguas. The Thunder Baguas being kind of a classic inclusion for RP Luffy, is really good for the aggressive angle that people try to take against this deck for answering the Betties and being able to just ward off a little bit more heavy pressure, and get to that 8 down threshold for your leader effect to begin triggering. 1 red rock because it's searchable and it just kind of, once you get to the late game, you want to be playing your big bodies. So I see why he only has 1 of these in. That's again a meta call because we are running 3 Gravity Blade Raging Tigers. Again, this is to answer that aggressive angle. If you see a Bagoa and or really if you get to Gravity Blade them on 7 Don, you can really knock a Bellow Buddy pretty far behind pretty quickly. Um, so I think that's kind of the primary reason it's in there, but then it's also just 2 6-cost characters go to the bottom. It's also a trigger for your Charlotte Linlin. This list is running a top end package of 3 Sanjis, 4 of both of the Charlottes, the Katakuri and the Linlin, 2 Monkey D. Luffy's, a 9-cost Monkey D. Luffy's, and that's the entire top end package. So depending on what your meta is looking like and what you're expecting to see from a matchup perspective, you can definitely angle more into the rush side of things. But I think he was really focused on answering those aggressive decks, and this does do fairly well into that aggressive angle. It's usually kind of promoted as how you beat RP Luffy or UP Luffy. So beyond that, we do have our 4 Gum Gum Giants. They did split 2 Sanjis, 6-cost Sanjis with 2 Front Ahsokes for your 2Ks. Um, Are those only Trochok? Oh yeah, 4 Usahachis too. They're there. Yeah, so there's 8 2Ks, your four Gear 2s, 4 Gum Giants, and then everything else plays through. Oh yeah, 4 Namis. Card's amazing. It lets you set things up for your leader effect, or lets you get things out of your hand for your leader effect later, you know? So just great overall. Purple Black Luffy. This list hasn't been extensively tested, and I think I am kind of holding on to the removal angle a little bit longer than I should. But I'm trying to keep it from becoming mono purple deck, which you see a lot of people are running right now. But we do have the Law Searcher here to then search up our Zoros, because we are running 12 ramp here with the new Nico Robin. That's amazing. The the 2K counter that can also just naturally ramp us, the Zoro that's always been the ramp piece, and then the Black Maria 2K that can ramp us if needed, and also help us reset after a Gear 5 play if you're playing that as well, which I am. Shocking, I know. Included two of the Tony choppers that do allow you to rest it down and is a blocker because it's just more defense and obviously Gum Giant's pretty good and more of these counters are going to be around, so it's pretty good I think, but we'll see. I think a lot of people are underwhelmed by it, but it can help you lock up a win, and I like cards like that. You guys know. I'm running 4 of the Frankies, just filtering and late game protection, just great for the deck. And I am running along that side that from additional blockers, the 5 cost 6K Trafalgar Law. I think the card is being a little bit overlooked. It's searchable by your law, which is great. And then it has you may return 2 cards from your trash to the bottom of your deck, which is kind of inconsequential for us because we're not playing any recursion, we're not playing Gecko or anything like that. And then you choose one. You can either draw, or if your opponent has 5 or more cards in hand, you can make them trash a card. So great tempo, whether you want to just cycle on one more card or rip at your opponent's hand, you can take either way. And then I am running 2 of the Sanjis that pop a 5 cost if there's a 6 cost on your board. And I do also have 4 Suros, so I am actually running 16 straight 2Ks here. But to that end, quite a few of these 2Ks I do and will be playing to the board. So with that being the case, I don't think I'm overloading, but I very well could be overloading. And to that point, the Suros probably aren't necessary, especially if Sanji is my only removal. But something else that's kind of cheeky with these Suros is I am running 2 of the 7 cost Sanjis that could then maybe rest like a Charlotte Curry blocker at some point. I don't know. Maybe greedy or not good, but I think it could be something. And then obviously 4 Beer Luffy's, that's now the new staple and mainstay of this deck, and I'm excited to get to playing with it. And then a couple other rushers between 3 9 cost Luffy's and 2 Gear 5 Luffy's. We have Robin. So this deck overall, very trigger heavy. We were playing through a lot of the early game triggers to be able to trash them for ramp, like that's what she does. And then also just some of them that you want to play out to the board. Basil Hawkins allows you to rip at life. And then I also included the stage removal, Braum, to mess with like Blackbeards and GP Luffy's and things like that. Might not be a fully needed tech choice in your meta, but I did include that. And the only other natural ramp that I included besides, just ramping off the leader effect is a God Thread. It also has a trigger 2 ramp and can be pitched for your leader effect, but it does remove a 5 cost. And then we do have the Damned Punk Electromagnetic that allows you to manipulate your life and then also pop. And then just counter and then top end. Our top end right now is a little bit of burn and a little bit of heal. So we got 2 Charlotte Linlands, 4 Katakuris. I really like the Katakuri with the Nico Olvia. You can play it out, buff your leader, swing, put that 2K back in your life to be able to cycle your hand or just pick up a 2K. The uses Captain Kid that rips one of your opponent's life and cycles your hand. And 3 Yamato, 3 kids, 3 Yamatos. Then I am running only 3 Gum Giants because it is just kind of demanding for this deck, and that's also the reason that I'm not playing 10 drops at all. Because once I get to 10, I can play 9 drop and then keep a Giant open and play through the late game very effectively at that point. And then 2 of the, you're the one who should disappear, 4 Capone Beige, 3 Sol, all just kind of other triggers to facilitate the early game. And then we did include a couple of the Kuzans. I know some of the other pilots have liked it a little bit more than I have personally, but it does just give you a lot of advantage if you get to start ripping at your opponent's hand and ripping at their life at the same time, especially early on. So some people are running like more Kuzan than Basil Hawkins, but I decided to go this way with it for now. Other two are going to be a little bit quicker. GP Luffy, there's 100 different ways you can see GP Luffy, and I built it slightly inefficiently on purpose. Realistically, you should cut this Zoro and cut these two giant pistols and go one more here, one more Nico Robin, one more Zoro, and then one more Electrical Luna probably. You can probably just be more efficient and more competitive overall. But building this deck through kind of that same package, but including just like one Zoro at the top end is kind of my just, if I hit it, I hit it, and then if I get to Gum, actually, I have hit a few people with the Gum Gum Giant Pistol into gear too, which is very fun and very good. But this deck I'm not going to spend a ton of time on because, like I said, it's kind of you play Sanji and Pudding and then you swing through with other stuff. Foxy here, we are going to have to test this one out. This is a experimental list. We do just have a full suite of Foxy pirates. I'm not going to read every single one of them to you right now, but I'm including the new 2K. Itumumu is amazing. Porsche. Foxy, obviously. But again, like I said, the Sanji and Pudding edition to be able to mitigate this -3 from your leader and draw cards if you're behind on Don, I think will be great utility. Maybe four is too many, but I want to play with it a little bit. A couple uses Captain Kids to get Don back when you're doing Don minus as well. Again, the blocker is maybe 3/3 could be a little better or something, but I like having that mid game body, or at least I like the idea of that mid game body. Then a couple top end pieces with our OP09 Sanji and OP09 Luffy, a couple of Jet Gatling. Beam Sword's one of my favorite cards in the game, so anytime I can get somebody with that, I'm going to enjoy it. And then Megadon Ninetales Rush is the I'm Invincible effect for your Foxy to restand it and be able to swing again. So yeah, like I said, that's the deck list that I've kind of have going into this next testing session. RP Luffy is going to be the primary, but I kind of do want to make videos around all 6 of these leaders at least. If you guys want to see some Zanji, you want to see some ST21, ST13 Luffy's, let me know. If there's any other leaders you'd really like to see me take a second look at, let me know too. I mean, again, I'm going to play the things that I do find the most compelling, and that is mostly purple. But I do have some creativity and some other things that I want to play with. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I don't want to run too much longer on you. I already ran longer than I planned to. Uh, but we will call it there. And if you haven't already, subscribe for much more consistent content now that we're locked in at the new location for the time being. And yeah, see y'all soon.